Hey, how's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to a Tuesday. It is the Earthmaster out here, July 8th, 2025, 10:33 a.m. California time. Latest activity shows some movement there across the Pacific Northwest, up into a volcano, actually, around Mt Rainier in Washington. Seen an earthquake swarm in the last several hours with over 100 earthquakes being recorded. I'll show you guys that map here in just a second as far as the seismograph station goes. But look at this. Up around Mt Rainier, these guys showing 88 earthquakes as far as located and, determined depth and magnitude. Nothing big far as magnitude level goes, but that's a hefty amount of earthquake activity that's stirred up. Looks like mainly, let's see when it kicked up here. It was about 6 o'clock this morning or so. It's been off and on with kind of consistent earthquake activity there since about 2 o'clock this morning here. And so far the largest event is just a 1.6. But again, that's a lot of earthquake activity right up at the summit area of Mt Rainier. Now check out the seismograph station here. This is a recorded view of the seismograph station that's very close. Let me show you guys exactly where it's at, just to the west here of this current earthquake swarm. Let me go and click on it here. It shows you guys the recorded view. And, man, that's a lot. Back in 2009, if I remember right, they had a somewhat of a similar earthquake swarm up there. Now, I do have an image here to show you guys. This was put out this morning there from the USGS. With the current earthquake swarm there of July 8th, 2025. Now there's going to be some located earthquakes since 2020. That includes, obviously the past few years. This is a volcano. This is the depth in kilometers. This earthquake swarming right now is in the stars there. So it's not super deep and not very shallow, just about halfway down there. This could be some volcanic gases and, the volcanic works down there to maybe stirring things up, getting some earthquake activity going here. I don't think it's of anything of concerning nature yet because I was looking at the GPS stations here around the area. I know there's not any specifically up at the summit. But the ones that I am able to access over here, the GPS stations, that one's offline. Let's see here. I know we had another one. Let's get rid of that. Let's see. Where'd my stations go? Hello. It disappeared. They come and they go. What's going on here? Okay, so if it stays up here on the map, we'll be able to see this. Let's zoom in just a little bit here. I believe this is another GPS station here. And this one is current. August 2024, February 2025. So obviously that would cover to the time period right now. And as you can see here, not a whole lot of vertical displacement here. This would be the area to watch down here, the vertical up position here. That would indicate some, swelling or some type of inflation going on there across Mt Rainier. But it looks pretty steady, even, going back here to 2020. So that's, I think it may be some volcanic gases down there that could be activating some fault systems underneath this area. It is, the depth of these earthquakes there. Let's see. These are all showing negative numbers here. Let me see what the... negative. So it's pretty shallow. Really shallow activity there across that region. Looking on this map, that would put it, you got to account, this is for sea level, so that's why you're seeing the negative depth there. But if we were to look at just below the surface of the summit area, That would probably be about a kilometer or so, I believe, underneath this area. Just about. So, yeah, interesting little swarm going on there. Again, I don't think it's anything of any noteworthy, you know, impending eruption. Again, you would have to have, inflation going on. That's obviously a key indicator. I can't get any of these tilt meters here, the electronic tilt meter, to work. I don't know if there's any gas emission stations out there. That's one thing that looks like it's missing from the map here is the monitoring of gas emissions. But for now, just kind of watching it. Either way, decent amount of earthquake activity, and 100 and let's see, what was the total tally there? Let me go back. Where is our Mt Rainier? There we go. Total tally looks like it's 110 here on the map, with the earliest being June 17th. But as of today, that earthquake swarm there, you could probably knock off 10 or so earthquakes from previous back in June, but still got up around 100 earthquakes, at least with the ones they're counting. If you were to count every single one up there, go back to the map, including some of these really small ones, it's probably over 100 is what I'm guessing here. But at least they're counting the ones, even some of these smaller ones. But yeah, there's probably a well over 100 earthquakes here. Again, in the last 6 hours or so, it looks like decent amount of earthquake activity, and it's still continuing up to this hour, with the latest one there in the red. The 1.6s, the biggest one so far. Looks like it's probably going to be, maybe some of these right here. So it looks like we're still getting a couple mid one-pointers there. Nothing big, but I'll continue to watch this. I may pull up a seismograph station there on the live seismograph stations. Looks like Petrolia up there got a little bit of swarming going on itself out here. See these spikes showing up there on the graph? There's one, and then there's a couple more following that. So let's see what's going on here outside of this region, and we'll definitely check back on that here. 1032 is the latest there, little 0.8. Not much going on there across Mount St. Helens here. Northern California, 3-pointer. So that is going to be that earthquake that just disappeared here. I was showing you guys on the seismograph station there, that little reading. Looks like this is starting to mess up again, but I thought I had it fixed. But either way, these come and go. They go offline here for 30 seconds or so, and then they come back online. But there is a 3-pointer coming in, and it looks like there was a couple other smaller quakes following that 3-pointer when I was able to access the data. Earlier this morning as well, 2.4. Starting to stir back up out here across the west coast, it looks like, as far as earthquake activity goes. A trail of earthquakes on the San Andreas Fault here, even getting down into the it kind of skipped over the Parkfield section here. Let's see what we got here. Creeping section, and then it goes right here into the Parkfield segment, and then it kind of skips over that down here, getting towards the southern end of the San Andreas Fault. This earthquake, a 1.4 this morning, 2.3 this morning as well. Last night a 1.5, 1.9 this morning. So things are definitely on the move out here across California right now, and obviously up into the Pacific Northwest as well. Southern California, nothing. Well, we got one earthquake there. That's going to be from yesterday, that 2.6 in Southern California, but I don't see any major swarming going on here for now. everything down here looks normal for the most part as far as earthquake activity goes. The only thing I'm watching is this new uptick this morning. Again, it kind of jumped over the Parkfield section here of the San Andreas Fault. Got to watch that because we're getting close, I think, to seeing another 6-pointer on there. It tends to happen every 20 to 22 years, and the last one was back in 2004. The rest of the country, a couple earthquakes out there leading up to Yellowstone. Let's see what we got there across that volcano. Not a whole lot of earthquake activity that I'm seeing here on the map. It would definitely stand out. I see maybe one or two very small earthquakes. Parker Peak picking one up here. But for the most part, it looks pretty quiet there across Yellowstone. The rest of the country, oil fields and some movement out in Oklahoma. New Madrid seismic zone in the east looks pretty quiet. So let's take a look here at Japan, see what we got for the latest activity here. Just one earthquake showing up here from yesterday for a 4.7. But I do want to double check that from the Japan Meteorological Agency here and see what's being recorded. Definitely a lot less active out here. The last one, it looks to be 9:27, over an hour ago for a 2.5. Previous to that was like another hour ago. Yeah, a little spotty out here. If you look at these time periods here, we're not seeing that consistency of earthquake activity that we were looking at here a couple days ago, where we were seeing 10, 15, sometimes 20 earthquakes an hour. So things have definitely backed off in terms of the multitude counts out here. I think that's why we're starting to see increasing movement out there across the eastern Pacific. That includes the West Coast. I was kind of chatting about that last night when I didn't have hiccups about the that little teeter-totter effect here that takes place between these two areas. When things are very active out there across Japan and this area of the plate boundary, things tend to take a little breather out here and vice versa. So watch West Coast right now. It is starting to stir up. A lot of earthquake activity out there right now. The middle point, way up north here, Alaska, a couple smaller earthquakes. Nothing big going on there. Looks like a 4.3 from yesterday. The latest quake above 2.5 is going to be a 3.3 this morning up here outside of Anchorage. Looks like that's on this fault system here, the Castle Mountain Fault. But for now, nothing big. Here's that earthquake from last night, a 4-pointer, 82 miles deep there underneath this zone. The newest quake activity here near the Bismarck Sea, 5.3 earthquake around Papua New Guinea. Looks like previous to that there was a 5.2 and another 5.2. So we got a little bit of earthquake swarming going on here just off of this zone. See what we got. Looks like a fracture boundary. Either way, things are definitely a little bit of an eye opener there. Things stirring up a little bit. Older activity up here, backing off. Doesn't mean it's gonna, completely go away. I mean, it could. You never know. The swarm definitely was an interesting one. I think they got 1,400 or 1,500 earthquakes there. Recorded around that area of Japan in the past several days. So, but it's backed off a lot. The newer movement, obviously, here across this region in the White Rings, down across New Zealand and the Kermadec Trench. Still got a bunch of threes down here where that 6-pointer struck yesterday. I'll pull up the map. There's a 6-pointer off of the South Island here, off of the plate boundary, 6.3. That was yesterday, and we've definitely seen a lot of earthquake activity here. Kind of skipping over the Alpine Fault. Definitely got to watch that. That's got big-time potential. North Island here, northward into the Kermadec Trench. Getting some threes as well. Just watch that middle point boundary. Aside from that, up into Canada, looks like a little 4.2 earthquake this morning. That would... well, it's not up there on the USGS map, so let's go over here to the Canada site and see what they're reporting. real quick. Okay, that's going to be this earthquake here in the purple, 4.2. Looks like early this morning or so. These earthquakes that are occurring, and that was in the BC region at 5 kilometers, but a noticeable increase, after midnight or so, it seems like, across the west coast here, California, and it seems like that's when the not only the San Andreas Fault down here being active along that creeping section and then hopping over the Parkfield segment, but you take into account this activity there in California, the creeping segment movement, Mt Rainier swarming, and then earthquake activity into the BC region, all taking place roughly or stirring up about the same time. That tells me right here that we need to watch the Cascadia. When you got all that pressurization going on inland, the southern end showing it, watch this right here. That's the Cascadia subduction zone. Tremor activity has completely come to a halt. Let's go over and check the tremor here. I think we had a small amount from yesterday, maybe none. That's right, there was zero. I think it was the previous day that we had just a very small amount there into the southern end of the Cascadia. So we'll go back here to the all data. Yeah, we've just come pretty much to a standstill in terms of that tremor activity. And that tremor, not volcanic in nature, but it's slow slip events that are recorded there into the deeper areas of the Cascadia subduction zone. And it's come to a halt. Now we're starting to get earthquake swarming, earthquake activity in BC, volcano there in the Cascades, Northern California. I think it's just the entirety out here that's seeing that uptick right now. So we'll watch it when things are starting to come to life out here. That's a sign to watch for some bigger quake potential. For now, not a whole lot of big activity, but it could be coming. The Big Island of Hawaii out there, a couple smaller earthquakes. We'll give a quick glance there, see what we got for the Kilauea volcano site. Could be getting close to an eruption out there at any time, I believe. We'll check out the deformation data. It's starting to level out here a little bit, looks like, in our soon-to-be episode 28 eruption. We're getting close. It could happen at any time. It could happen today, tonight. Let's check out the webcam, see what's going on here. Yeah, quite a bit of volcanic gases seeping out of those two craters. I don't see any fountaining or anything like that going on. No spillover. Just waiting on the next eruption here. Again, that could happen there on the Big Island at any time, because we're pretty much matching the level seen here in last episode number 27 there, when things started to erupt. But aside from that, let's see here. Check out the rest of the globe. Nothing major going on there across Mexico for now. Some activity there across the Middle America Trench, but those are going to be a couple fours. Nothing big. Latest quake looks like a 3-pointer here across the Chile area. The Atlantic Ocean starting to stir back up out here. Look at that, 5.1 and a 4.9. It is in that zone here where when things take place, when things start to stir up out here, we notice an increasing amount of earthquake activity globally following these fracture boundaries out there in the Atlantic, mid-Atlantic ridge. Last time it happened, we've seen a decent amount of uptick, so we'll watch that. Again, this is a spreading seafloor divergent boundary zone, so slowly creating some new seafloor out there. At the same time, it kind of gets the plates moving out here, so we'll watch for that uptick. Pretty good cluster of quakes out here. Looks like around the Mediterranean area northward. Nothing big, just some 2s and a bunch of 3s out there. Definitely a little bit more active than normal. And these are fairly new earthquakes as well. Looks like that could be the result of that Atlantic activity. So we'll kind of watch this, folks, see how it plays out. Another earthquake down across New Zealand right now with a 3.2 earthquake. half of these stations are online now. Oh, goodness. But look at this earthquake activity there in Petrolia. That's Northern California where the movement is stirring up right now. There's a bunch of these little spikes there. Those are very small. Almost reminds me of rock fracturing. We're getting ready to crack. That's going to be this area right up here. So, of course, those little bitty small signatures there on the seismograph station are not going to show up on the USGS map. For whatever reason, in this general area, well, they're showing a 2.4, but I don't think they show anything above the 2-point range here, specifically for this area. Down south, yes, but whatever reason, this, the seismograph stations here that are monitoring the data, nothing below 2.0 gets reported. Of course, ongoing swarm up there at Mt Rainier. The latest one is still a little 0.8, and that's from just 10:32 a.m. So we'll continue to watch that. Definitely a decent amount of earthquake activity there. 93 earthquakes listed on the map last 7 days. So I'm thinking there was some last night or yesterday as well. Maybe a couple earthquakes in early July, but I think we're well over 100 earthquakes if they start counting all those other little bitty smaller ones as well. Interesting. All right, space weather activity had a little M flare last night. That came off of that far side region. The one I've been kind of chatting about, that's way out there. I don't think it's visible yet in terms of the sunspot itself, but that M flare well above the area of the sun and just blasted off a decent flare, M2.4. That is a former region. It looks like that he's mentioning 4114 or 4115 there. The magnetogram image. Let's see what we got here for the latest data. There it is. Kind of neat, kind of nice to see a little bit of complexity there coming back onto the sun. It's been producing some C flare activity and now an M flare last night. So once this gets into a more Earth-directed view, then we'll start talking about some decent, possibly some decent flare threats there from that sunspot. Currently unnamed, but again, this is that one sunspot that was out here a number of weeks ago. It looks like it's still remaining active, so we'll watch for that. Flare threat has jumped up a little bit there to 35% chance for an M flare, 95% chance there for a C flare, and we'll get a little bit better look at that tonight and over the next couple days, obviously. No major roars there in the forecast for now, folks. Quick glance at the next 5 close approach asteroids here. Quite a few new ones on the map. Some older ones as well. Older monitored from 2019. Pretty safe. Look at that. Big numbers. That's what we want. Keep them far away from the planet there. This one's fairly, that's kind of a small asteroid, but that's just about 1 million miles away, so no biggie. As far as the Storm Prediction Center goes, calling for some severe weather out there across the east. That, no tornado threat. It looks to be, main threat's going to be some damaging wind gusts. Some hail back over here across the southern plains. But aside from that, a lot of thunderstorm activity out there. Everywhere except for California. Pretty quiet as far as the weather goes. I do have a couple big fires out here, unfortunately. Hopefully they get a handle on them. It's just kind of crazy. This big one down here, the Madre fire, still sitting at 80,000 acres, 35% containment. I'm not seeing any visible hot spots here on the map. I guess I'm thinking that's good news. That means they're getting a handle on it. Let's see what we got. That's not even really looking at the fire area. That's being blocked. But it does look like they're definitely making some progress here on that fire, the Madre fire. The rest of Southern California, they're a little spotty. Northern California, a couple big ones up here. Well, maybe not big, but they're deep into the forest, such as this green fire. That's way out there. in some heavily forested, steep terrain. Very dense forest up here, and that's not cool, man, because I'm sure there's some beautiful country up there, but a lot of hot spots being picked up there on that green fire, which shows no containment, over 2,100 acres. As you can see, some pretty heavy smoke there with that fire. That's burning in all directions. No wind events for now, which is good. Hopefully they can get a handle on that with some aerial equipment. And a couple more out here, it looks like. This one, the bridge fire, that 30% containment. I don't see any hot spots being observed there. That's good. And a couple, quite a few up in Oregon and Washington. And the rest of the West here, looks like we're all on fire, but a lot of these are some smaller fires. This little spot, little vegetation fires and whatnot. But we'll keep an eye on that. All right, let's see what we got up here now. One earthquake north of Seattle. Looks like it's on the southern Whidbey Island fault zone. Where's that Whidbey? Whidbey or Whidbey? Yeah, which one is that? So yeah, seeing all this activity right now up in the BC region this morning, Northern California moving, and the San Andreas Fault moving here. It looks to be, the interaction here, the pressurization on the plate boundary, the Cascadia, and of course the interaction between the Pacific and the North American plate here under some strain. We'll watch that today. Another earthquake coming in there to the Petrolia station as we speak. Japan station, pretty quiet. Like I said, it looks like it's definitely backed off there as far as the earthquake activity goes for now, but it's not always going to be like that. It kind of comes and goes. Right now, the main focus, I think, is over here across the West Coast in this general area. We got to watch. And that one earthquake coming in there is hard to say how big it is. I mean, compared to that 3-pointer that came in, this could be a 2-pointer, maybe a 2.5. We'll see if they report that. Either way, have yourself a wonderful Tuesday. We will see you guys back out here a little bit later on. It's going to be a little bit cooler out here, 93 degrees, I think, today. That's a little bit cooler, I guess. I'd be happy with about 80 or below. But for now, we'll take the cooler weather. Have yourself a wonderful day, folks. We'll see you guys back out here a little bit later. Take care.